Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Songs of Healing podcast with Ian Taylor, a podcast where we explore the healing elements of song and songwriting and how they are used to heal and process life experiences. I am your host, Ian Taylor, singer-songwriter, coach, and humble student of life, offering my wisdom, perspectives, and heartfelt story. So continuing with the story, the arc of my experience that was happening behind these songs, I am taking you up to 2015 with this episode. So that's quite a jump from 2011 to 2015. A lot happened in those years. In my life, it was the beginning of my 30s, and a lot of pinnacle things happened to me. 2011, I was in a band, and we were an electronic rock band called The Height. I was in the band with two other good friends, and it was kind of like a collaboration between me and one other friend who was more like a producer, and I was a songwriter, and we were putting this electronic rock kind of indie feel on my songs, and it was what I was really into at that time. And it's actually today I was listening back to some of the videos from back then of us performing. And it's always interesting looking back because I remember at the time kind of like it was like this constant laboring to try to find the right sound, to try to find the things that we were striving for, and we were really into the contemporary music that was coming out at that time too. So it was we're constantly trying to compare ourselves to other bands, and anyways, trying to bring ourselves somewhere as artists to some level of success. So in between that time, around 2011, 2012, actually was the first time I was in a professional grade studio with that band, The Height. We were recording an EP, and it was a fun experience. I remember having a lot of fun and a lot of kind of creative juices flowing. There was some struggles with the producer there, and kind of like, for me, it was challenging, trying to get the sound that we're going for to come out in this tangible way. And then in 2012, we went to South by Southwest in Austin, performed, and that was fun. That was like a high experience. That was probably the pinnacle or the height of that band, The Height, South by Southwest. It was a lot of fun. It was the first time doing like a traveling somewhere together as a band, and yeah, and it was just very fun experience, very high experience. I was in my early 30s and pretty caught up in myself. I look back to it now, and I definitely can be a bit ashamed of my behaviors, especially towards my bandmates at that time. It was hard to lead that band, and to kind of get through whatever my own emotional turmoil that was going on in my own life and be a grounding energy in the band as well, and try to lead the band forward, and competing with my own insecurity, my own fear, and the desire and drive by other bandmates to get it out there as soon as possible. And they were like my brothers, and so of course a lot of emotions kind of came up between us that were hard for me to deal with. Ultimately, after that trip to Austin, one bandmate ended up leaving the band, and after that the band kind of fell apart. And that was shortly after our trip to Austin. And it was kind of a hard experience. I had come to this place where I just really saw like that I was getting in my own way, and that it was I was really needing some space to figure out like what I was dealing with inside of myself, why I was having a hard time pushing this band forward or really committing to this thing that we had going. That there was a lot of energy and there was a lot of power in, and my bandmates put a lot of energy and finances into, as well as me putting a lot of my love and passion into it. And it was, like I said, it was hard to I find myself anyways. I've always struggled as an artist of holding this deep vision, this deep, beautiful vision inside of me of my art, and trying to get that to translate out into the world through the recordings, through the performances. And I've learned now that there's this element of letting go, just hoping that it's going to translate in the way that I would want it to. And also realizing that people perceive what I'm doing in their own way. It hits them or impacts them in the way that they need. And I actually have no control over that. So, but really what's under that is, for me, is fear. It's fear of being seen and fear of being out there, fear of being possibly ridiculed or judged. But it's interesting looking back at those videos today of those performances with that band. We were doing some cool stuff. Can admit it now. I definitely probably could not see it back then, though, at all. Yeah. So anyways, that's what had happened pretty soon after the last EP that I did, of my solo recordings and electronic stuff. And then after the band broke up is, at that time in my life, I just started going deeply into seeing my responsibility as a leader. And it honestly felt like too much weight for me at the moment. Not only in the band, but also in my relationship. My girlfriend at the time, I could see that she wanted marriage. She was pretty vocal about it. She wanted to start a family, and I also wanted that with her. But I could also feel that I was completely not ready for it. And in order to kind of find myself deeper with all of these reflections happening around me with the band, and knowing that I was kind of getting in my own way of the band being successful and continuing forward, knowing that I was kind of not ready to step forward into more responsibility in this relationship. I was in therapy at that time. That's probably when I started to take therapy a lot more seriously. And I remember my therapist suggested that I go to this men's gathering called the New Warrior Training Adventure. It was basically a weekend kind of retreat, deep dive into the initiatory process that is missing from Western culture, but that men always had in tribal cultures to put a clear marker of the end of childhood and the beginning of adulthood, and how not having that kind of ritual or that practice is detrimental to men in general, because there's a lot of men, says this organization, that there's a lot of men, and I believe this too, actually, there's a lot of men walking around kind of in an immature way, not really knowing how to take full responsibility in their lives and how to carve out the deep cavern of empathy within, the deep cavern of experience, of facing ourselves, possibly facing our own death, facing the death of our childhood, facing the death of our little egos that we have, the little egos that kind of can keep us stuck in this arrogance, keep us stuck in this idea that we are grandiose and we are special. But having this kind of process of initiation where you're facing the death of your ego, you're facing kind of your mortality, and how that is a very important experience to mature into really understanding the reality that we are living in of this life. So anyways, that was kind of just a quick summarization of what that men's weekend was about. But it was a intense weekend. It was tough, and I needed it at that time. I was really starving for something at that time to help me. And after that weekend was the first experiences of panic attacks that I ever had, and anxiety attacks. And I remember those moments was really, it was me just having a hard time fathoming responsibility and moving forward, and that part of me that was not ready, struggling and writhing inside, knowing that there's some sort of stepping forward I need to be doing in my life, and I don't know how to do it. And there was also big realizations of significant things needing to change in my life. So anyways, I remember going to that men's weekend and struggling with finances at that moment, and kind of asking my friend to help me out financially so I could attend that weekend. And I remember saying to him, like, this is actually for us. This is for the band. And then after that weekend, that's when I started to see very clearly that I needed to part ways from this band, from my bandmate that was very committed to our project. And I also needed to part ways from my girlfriend at the time. I mean, it wasn't only that men's retreat that made me see that. I've been getting inklings of that for a while. It was more that I just had this deep realization that I have never really developed my individuality in life. And the things that I was involved in were requiring me really to have a strong individuality in order to move forward. To be able to trust in myself, to be able to believe in myself. And I noticed that I had a lot of deep codependent patterns going on inside of me, and I was terrified to let them go, let alone not even knowing how to let them go. So that weekend kind of woke me up a lot out of that. It was a bit of a kind of aggressive experience, honestly. In retrospect, a thing that I always had a gripe about that experience was there was not proper support after these deep kind of dives of realization that I went through in that experience. And it was challenging to face the realizations I was having without acting on them too impulsively, because that impulsive desire or need to change my life that came up right after that weekend was creating a lot of instability in my life, or in my relationship, in my friendships, because I was aware that I was just needing to learn how to rely on myself more. And I was also aware that I was really tied into these people and pleasing them. And at the same time, to leave them abruptly felt really wrong. And I didn't know what else to do at the moment. But ultimately, the experience, I navigated the experience. I had to figure out how to navigate that experience of staying in the relationships and communicating what I was needing, what was not working, and what I was wanting, and why I think I was pretty sure that I was transitioning out of, or needing to transition out of the relationships. So in a way, that weekend woke me up and also had me deal with the relational aspect of communicating the truth of what was going on inside of me, regardless of it, whether it hurt the other person. Because for me, I was always scared to hurt people around me. Not to say that I'm advocating hurting people around you. I mean, if you're compromising yourself, I advocate it. If you're compromising yourself because you don't want to hurt others, then that's not good for you. That's dangerous for you. What I'm saying is, it had me have to deal with the relational aspect of communicating and being human with each other and dealing with our attachments in the most caring way possible. So yeah, I went through those kind of breakups, the band breaking up with my girlfriend, and I moved into a small studio in a warehouse in Oakland. It kind of was just like my bachelor pad. And started working at a coffee shop. And around that time, the time from the breakup with my girlfriend into moving into that studio, that was around this time that I was recording this EP with this song on it that I'm going to be talking about in this podcast episode, From Starry Night. And this song is, it's actually a really beautiful song. Again, it's kind of capturing this electronic synth kind of acoustic mellow vibe that I was really into at the time. And what this song kind of came out of was, I always had this vision that I wanted to focus on. I remember it kind of sparking my inspiration when I was in the band. And I always had this idea of doing a concept album and a concept performance, which would convey or express, or it would be an artistic expression of the process of coming from childlike innocence and an idealism and a kind of hopefulness about the world and about our powers and our capabilities, and a deep belief in the things that we dream and envision, and the process of facing the world from that place of innocence and kind of getting our asses handed to us, going through our initiatory process, and then darkness descending on us and having to learn the deep learnings of life, the deep learnings of the realness, the honesty of this life, and how it's not this childlike dream, and how also that process of diving in to an initiation of darkness, of dark night of the soul, is a beautiful and necessary part of life that actually creates character, creates empathy, creates understanding, creates compassion, and also can, that's the positive end to it. It can also drive people to negativity, drive people to pessimism, to doubt, to self-doubt, to cementing themselves in beliefs in order to keep themselves safe, that dreams do not come true, that it's all bullshit. And, I think that comes from a deep experience of trauma or something, protecting ourselves so much that we don't dare to dream because we don't want to deal with the letdown of the dream not coming to pass. So anyways, this song is called From Starry Night, and this song was meant to capture the childlike innocence and the sense of grandiosity, the sense of wonder, the sense of anything being possible. But I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's listen.
Innocent.
Innocence in every gesture, your widened eyes with all you greet, an instrument of all your dreams, called to act on messages received from starry night. So, I think one thing I did get right or capture with this song is that it feels very cosmic, dreamy, kind of like the images I get from listening to the song is standing under a vast night sky with like beaming, shining stars, and the Milky Way just clear and shooting stars. Just, yeah. Because really, this song is about inspiration. It's about receiving inspiration from the universe. It's about that. It's about that deep openness that you have when you're a child, and how that innocence is kind of a gateway to this vastness of possibility, and also I think the vastness of information in the universe, and how when we're young we are not our filters aren't dirtied up yet, or we don't really have many filters anyways, and we're just open to receive inspirations, visions, creativity, and also connection to joy, connection to good nature, connection to love and compassion for others and feeling for others. So, but this song is kind of getting at that beautiful kind of openness that we experience in the innocence of childhood. And for me, I remember just being so deeply creative and connected to my creativity, and also just like my visceral sensitivity, just feeling so acute back then. Like I would just feel so affected by things, so affected and so deeply impacted by like stories, by dreams, by movies, by cartoons, or just like anything creative. Just like it just hit me on a deeper level, a much deeper level. And yeah, that's definitely what this song is capturing. But this song, like I was saying before, it's like it's a part of this kind of arc of this storyline I was wanting to tell in this conceptual set. The conceptual set was called The Call. And so a lot of the what I'm alluding to in this song is that there's something that calls to us. There's something that calls to us, and I think when we're young, we're more in touch with it because we don't have we're not jaded by our adolescence or adulthood yet. And maybe even in our adolescence, we're still kind of connected to our childlike innocence, but I think that's when it starts to die off. So the call to a vision, and the openness to receive a vision when we're young, when we're so open in our youth. It reminds me of, I don't remember where this is, probably somewhere in all the work I've done in my life and searching inside and outside or whatever for purpose. And I remember a good prompt if someone is not clear with their purpose in life is to ask them, what did you want to be when you were a child? And how most likely the dreams that we had back then as adults, it would seem so far-fetched. It would seem so probably ridiculous. But I like the idea of going back to kind of thinking about like what our original inspirations were in life. What were the things that moved us? I mean, it wouldn't make sense for me because I remember when I was like 10, I wanted to be a basketball player, but that has fallen away completely. But maybe there's something about the essence of being on a team and being this, a star athlete that was kind of resembling music or resembling being seen as someone as great, anyways. It's just kind of an interesting thought exercise. But I do think that there is wisdom in our inspirations and our dreams from when we were young, because I do think there is truths in it that might seem ridiculous to go after, but dreams are ridiculous, and they're meant to be ridiculous, I think. They're meant to challenge us to discover the magic of life and to discover ourselves beyond our fear and beyond our fears of ridicule and ridiculousness. So, who knows? Maybe the first thing you wanted to be when you were a kid was actually your real purpose. Who knows? Excitement from what life could be, inspired by visions you see. This calling is drawing the need to become what you've gleaned from starry night. Yeah, again, it is kind of like this childlike wonder of what we could become in life. I do think that as we go about life, that the courageous ones who find some sort of success and maybe are deeply impactful in the world, that, I don't know, I like the idea that they were always connected to it from their youth, always connected to this deep calling, and maybe always had this sense of clarity of what they were meant to do in the world and what they were meant to be. So maybe that's what I was kind of going for with this song. The bridge, I would say the bridge is speaking more into grandiosity, and how there is a grandiosity, I think, especially if you have specific talents. There's a grandiosity that we feel in our youth a lot. And I know for me, that was the case. There was kind of a sense of, I am going to be the special light in the world. So yeah, the lyrics to the bridge is, you're going to save the world, you're going to shed the light, you're going to call on powers from high. You're going to be the savior, you'll be the sun that shines, you're going to call on powers from high. It's just like calling powers from the heavens, I actually think of Jesus a lot with this part, but I think maybe it's more like thinking of oneself like Jesus, or like in the status of Jesus somehow. And I do think that there is a kind of, there's a arrogance to how special we think we are, especially when we're really young and we haven't really been tested against the world yet. So again, this song is a part of this conceptual set that I was writing called The Call. And then the next song in the set, it's probably the next song I'll do in this podcast, is called Darkness Descends, which is basically, it's you measuring up against the world. And so that's kind of where a lot of these ideas of grandiosity get burned away. And there's more reality more sets in of what our actual capabilities are in life and what the dragon is that we are up against, what the dragon is that we need to be slaying. That's a term actually from the hero's journey. What is our dragon we need to slay? In the hero's journey, we are slaying a dragon. It's kind of our foe that we are, that we are up against, that we must slay, that we must face. And it can come in the forms of our own self being our own dragon, or an aspect of our own self being our own dragon, whether it be like self-doubt, whether it be addiction, which self-doubt is a form of addiction, or whether it be, just any darkness that is keeping us limited, keeping us from realizing our full potential in the world. But I think that the opposite end of that is being in this grandiose self that is a little naive and a little inexperienced. And it's a beautiful thing because it's also very connected to this sense of possibility, this sense of like, I can change the world, this sense of I'm going to be a light in the world, this sense of I'm going to create a difference, and being an advocate for positivity and love. At least that's how it was for me. That's how it's always been for me, being an advocate for those positive things. But how there's a kind of natural process of maturity, which is kind of facing our demons, facing ourselves, facing the world, facing who we actually are as we measure up to the world, as we are going through our lives, dealing with the things we need to deal with. It's interesting, this is the thing that I'm talking about, going back to the beginning of this episode, where I was talking about all the things I faced in between those years, 2011, 2015, and how it makes sense that this song is kind of the song that came out of my consciousness through all I had kind of gone through at that time, because it felt like it was the first time in my life that I was really up against myself and how I was in my own way, and how I was also needing to go deep into this process of deeply learning who I am and what I really stand for in the face of the things that I struggle with. Like, how will I be a person of integrity with the things I struggle with? Will the things that I struggle with compromise my integrity? And if they are, how can I heal that? How can I work on that? How can I refine that or become a master of it more? So that's really, it's really reflecting the deep process I was going through at this time. praise you all. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This was a long episode. I had a lot to get through in this episode to catch me up to when this song came out, when this EP came out. This EP is actually on Bandcamp. You can go to Bandcamp. It's just Ian Taylor Music, bandcamp.com. And you can actually buy this EP if you are interested, if you like this music. Also, the last EP, which I'm going to be remastering actually, so I'm not going to promote that yet. But feel free if you're interested in this stuff. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy me talking and rambling about myself. And yes, I have a lot more to share. Until next week.